Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Miles, host of the SOS The Shout Out Show. Hope that you're having a wonderful Wednesday and going back to last Wednesday. I hope that you had a great week. Yeah, I want to give some shout outs. I want to give a shout out to the Islamic Arts Festival at the annual festival, the 11th annual festival here in Houston, Texas. Just amazing what they were able to do. Uh, it's a great art festival. I want to give a shout out to the Alfred Das Nasheed group, amazing musicians and singers. I want to give a shout out to my brothers on the comedy show, Moses the Comic, my main man Marlon Hill out of Milwaukee. Shout out to Marlon who came in last minute to fill in for the fallout that we had, and he was tremendous. The crowd. In fact, I want to shout out the crowd. They did a wonderful job. And shout out to, of course, Rasala Foundation, who's also been part of it. Um, and just in that space, a very, very celebratory space. I really enjoy it. I'm getting ready to go out on tour with Human Appeal with their comedy tour starting actually this weekend. So look for me in Dallas on Friday, Houston on Saturday, and Atlanta on Sunday. The following weekend will be New Jersey, New York, no, New Jersey, DC, and New York. So look for me, and of course, the final three cities will be Detroit, Columbus, and Chicago. Okay, well, let's get to what this is today, brothers and sisters. I don't really want to play around. I don't know if you're watching the news or hearing the scuttlebutt in the Muslim community, but we have a situation scenario that's unfolding as I speak. I've done some surface research just to make sure it wasn't just scuttlebutt. But this is real. We're talking about people being arrested. People are filing. They're making statements, and it goes back to something that we talked about some time ago, but it has to be revisited. So if you have any children, I don't know if you do. I'm going to ask you to please have them leave the room. This is a very, very adult conversation. We're talking about pedophiles, and I have stated this show as pedophiles, chickens in the Muslim hen house. First and foremost, this is not a new thing. This is not a new thing. I have firsthand knowledge of a lot of activity that's happened. Some of it has been addressed effectively. Some of it has been shushed under the rug. And we now find ourselves in a situation where now, and this has always been a really, really big issue. This has always been a big issue that, now that this behavior has not been addressed within the community, it's now going outside of the community. And given the basic tenor of the election and what's coming out afterwards, you could tell that people who don't like Muslims, they will use this. They will use this as an even better reason not to like Muslims, as an even more effective reason to blunt the whole idea of Islamic expression because it's looking like we can't police ourselves. Okay, so let's get to the fact. My brother, I know, and I'm going to just say this right now. I don't know if he's guilty or not. Brother Wasim Sharif, I do know him. I have his number in my phone. Was arrested allegedly for basically um, pedophilia, or in this case, encouraging a mother to engage her daughter in pedophilia acts, if you will. Now, here's the thing. Um, I read the report. You have to do that. I read the report. It's serious. Okay, because when people make statements and depositions, it gives you a little bit more tenure to it. And this is happening right out of Al Maghrib, which is of course, one of the foundations of Islamic foundation scholarships. This happened right at Al Maghrib, and this happened as a part of Al Maghrib, not a part, but this is a person who was a teacher, a trusted scholar with Al Maghrib, who basically, and let's just say what it is. This we're all adults. As a spiritual advisor, he told a woman, I believe in Alabama, in one of the southern states, he told a woman that to get closer to God, that she should, here it is, she should masturbate or use toys, if you will. And if that wasn't bad enough, he encouraged that her daughter should get closer to Allah by doing the same thing. Disgusting, I know, but these are the facts. But here's the thing that's more disgusting, and I think everybody should really be. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even start the Instagram. I'm so upset. The thing that is even more troubling is that this is not new. This isn't new. There's been an issue of pedophilia in the Muslim community for a very long time. The idea that people are trusting folks, these Islamic scholars, not all of them, but these particular Islamic scholars that, you know, that you know, I want to say the bottom has begun to drop out because it's becoming more and more and more frequent. You know, we're not talking about affairs or a man fell in love with a woman or something like that. We're not even talking about that. We're talking about psychological, emotional, physical abuse under the auspices of spiritual guidance. You understand what I'm saying? That these are trusted people. Now I'm gonna say this, and you know, you say however you want to. You know, I was in WD. I came up in the WD Muhammad community, and one thing I do always appreciate, what I never felt like I had to follow a particular scholar or imam. You know, it was encouraged that self-study was really, really encouraged. You know, the imam didn't have to have an entourage. I didn't want to be a part of the entourage. You know, the idea was get close to Allah through this information and this knowledge. That was the gist of it. But I've seen as a part of this community in the last 20 years how people use the mantra and the beauty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to commit these type of acts. Now this isn't new. And I know Satan, I'm gonna take a break. But I want to say this isn't new because I know people who've stood up and been silenced. People who've stood up and been ostracized to the point that they're not even in the aspect of giving spiritual knowledge anymore because they spoke the truth. We're going to talk about that in a minute when I come back. We're talking about pedophiles, chickens in the Muslim hen house. We'll be right back. Preacher Mars shout out show. Don't you move. All right, before we get started, I want to give a shout out to some folks, my people, if you will. I want to give a shout out to Sister Ree. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello to you and your family. Hope you're doing well. You, Derek and Juwan, hope all of you are blessed. Want to give a shout out to my man, Altaf Rashid. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We call him Mr. 6 o'clock, Mr. Straight Up, Straight Down, our Canadian envoy, all the way from Toronto. Thank you for joining us. Also want to give a shout out to my little brother JT. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Great vibing with you, writing a little comedy material. Brother Rashid is going to be funny. And I also want to give a shout out to, of course, our executive producer, the lovely Satana Whitfield, who, without her help, this show would not be where it is. And I have a few people out on Instagram. I got my nephew, my main man, Mo Lips out of Yellow Springs. How you doing, beloved man? Hey, did you change your phone number? Because I can't get a hold of you, but I hope you're doing well. Give my nephew, little man, a hug, and give my niece a hug too. All right. I want to give a shout out to BB Khan. How you doing, Sister BB? Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dynamite Soul has joined us. Thank you so much. Oh boy. Abu Basser, Sister Sakina 75, K Shaft, thanks so much. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to all of you for joining. I appreciate you. I'm going to talk about this topic, this whole idea of pedophiles in this Ummah. There's two thoughts. There's two thoughts. That one, people know about this. And two, people know about this, but they allow it to continue. I can't sit here as a man, as a family man, as a man, period, and tell you how I would react if someone who was close to me, or a loved one, or a child, or something, and someone who's close to me, and innocent, was somehow violated by a pedophile. I cannot tell you that. I can't tell you with any type of certainty that I would have a calm reserve, that I would look to Allah to ask for guidance. I can't tell you that. I can't tell you that. But what I can tell you is that would be addressed. Now, the manner in which it would be addressed, I can't tell you that either. But let's be very, very clear. This problem has been going along. I was going to put his video up. A very good friend of mine. He was a imam. He led a huge masjid in Texas, out around Dallas, Irving, as a matter of fact. And one day I was going through the internet and I saw a video of him, and I said, "This is my man right here." His name's Sheikh Nick, and I clicked on his thing, and I'm like, "What's Nick talking about? Maybe he's giving some knowledge, dropping some jewels. He's a Philly guy. He's an Eagle fan. We're gonna let that go." But Nick was standing in front of his congregation, dressing them down based on the fact that there was a pedophile in their community, and not only that, the pedophile had been aided and abetted. The pedophile was not brought to justice. That the people who had this knowledge, if you will, they stonewall Brother Nick. They stonewall his investigation. And people who we know as well known, hear me now, well known spiritual leaders, teachers of not give scholars and things like that we love, they stonewall this guy. And what happened was he was ostracized. What happened to the pedophile was afforded an opportunity to leave the country and go back to a foreign country. Now, that's not justice, because the justice in reality is these children still suffer. And now we have the same thing. I'm going to give some kudos to Al Maghrib Institute, because when this thing happened, they immediately fired Brother Wissam Sharif. Let's just say the evidence in this case was extremely compelling. I won't say overwhelming, but extremely compelling. When you have videos, when you have text, I'm not talking about halal, haram diddy here. I'm talking about this is a problem. And even before then, I would hear stories in the UK of Islamic scholars who are abusing young boys in these madrasas. Stories of parents who had trusted, hear me now, trusted their children to these scholars to help expand their spiritual knowledge and their spiritual growth, and they were violated. This is not new. This is not new. And as long as I sit here and talk about it, and I try not to get angry, the problem is some of these institutions still put the reputation over, they put their reputation first as opposed to the welfare of the people who are the victims. That it looks bad if this happened in their masjid, because somehow it might affect the fundraising. Somehow it might affect the gravitas of what this masjid is. Maybe it affects the membership, because people don't want to send their family and their children to a masjid that openly covers for pedophiles. That even being said, more is the fact that people have been stonewalled. There's a video, if you look up Sheikh Nick and his last, it's about 50 minutes long. His last thing was just the fact that he was so upset that all these people that had shunned him when he brought forth this case several years ago are now on his soapboxes talking about this is wrong and he should be condemned and da da da. And he has a right to be absolutely indignant, because there's no space for hypocrisy in these things. You understand? There's no space for hypocrisy in these things. I've gone through the same thing, brothers and sisters. As a young school teacher in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I was faced with the fact that one of my students, a young girl, was being sexually assaulted by her father. Islamically, legally, I had to be in a place. Hear me now. I had to be in a place where you have to protect the child from further abuse. And calling CPS and Child Protective Services and the police was part of it. And, I'll be honest. I'll be honest. The father came up to the school. He said I called the report. I did call, but I can't tell him because it's supposed to be anonymous. But I'm gonna tell you, he charged me up, and let's call it what it was. We wound up tussling just based on the fact that he had injured and violated a little girl. And I kind of went through what Sheikh Nick went through and some other folks, was just the fact that people decide to put levels, hear me, levels to your credibility. They want to switch words around. They want to say, "Oh, you're being extreme." Well, how the hell can you be extreme when you're just telling the truth? How the hell can you be extreme when you're dealing with victims? These are viable victims. They're not receipts. These are living, breathing people who are under the protection and the creation of the Almighty, and somehow we keep dropping the ball. Years ago, I said this, and I've said it to some folks in quiet spaces. You may not remember, but I talked about this some years ago, and I said, looking at the cases, I said, in some regards, sadly, uh, it's good that in some ways, in a weird way, it's good that Islam for some people is seen as a terror religion. I said because if we were seen as a religion of pedophilia, I'm like, we wouldn't even be viable. We wouldn't even be viable, brothers and sisters. We would be off the face of the earth. And we know of other religions that have that, I don't want to stereotype of reality, but this is Islam. This is the deen that we've all chosen. This is a deen, brothers and sisters, that, of course, it says this is a religion that's been perfected for us. But how can it be perfected if we don't effectively look at what we're doing? There's a great story in Africa. So bear with me. There was a story of a village in Africa, and someone in that village was violating the children. Now, the village people were going to go ahead and give him some of that village justice. But the pedophile decided to run and turn himself into the police to avoid that justice that was going to happen if he would turn loose to the village. And that pedophile sat in jail. He was happy, right? He was happy because he thought he was protected. The village people took a collection of money. They took a collection of money. You know what they did? They bailed that pedophile out. And the police said, "You're free to go." And I don't have to tell you what the village did to him, but you know what the village did to him. That is the sense of urgency that's missing now. I don't want to hear about the represent. I don't want to hear about the reputation of the masjid. I don't want to hear about oh, this could look bad. Who cares if it looks bad for you? How about the child? That child is affected. And I don't know if you ever been around those situations. I've taught special ed for years. One of the things that we always had to deal with is this, brothers and sisters, children being molested, children being abused and assaulted. And we had to address it in the classroom. And we had to hope, by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we had to hope that we were able to get them proper treatment, psychological treatment, social workers, mental health workers. And this is at a time when mental health and social work and psychology and psychiatry are absolute death nails in the Black community. So what of this Muslim community now? When are we going to have a meeting of the minds? And let's just be honest with ourselves and say that this is a freaking problem, that it ain't new, that people swell up on this whole idea that Allah has blessed me to the point that I can curse other people. that Allah has given me this certain light that I can abuse others. That those I'm supposed to protect are the ones that I violate. When are we going to have just an open conversation and start naming names? Let's not get to the point where people are outed because they made mistakes. When I read the report about uh, Brother Wasim Sharif, guess who outed him? His wife. His wife is the one that pulled the trigger on this thing and turned him into the authorities. When are we going to have that kind of courage? I'm sure this lady probably weighed the there's no pros and cons. It's all cons. If you don't do it, this is what happens. But she had the courage and integrity and the ethic, if you will, to say all of this is wrong. There's that whole idea of, you have to bear witness. You got to bear witness against yourself, whether it's in your favor or not in your favor. But this is the thing that's eluding me, even as we're talking about this conversation. That wrong is wrong. I'm not putting out here that I'm perfect. Any of us is perfect, but I can tell you and tell you I'm perfect. I'll be the first one to tell you, oh, I could be wrong. Been wrong plenty of times. And from this point on, I'm going to be wrong moving forward. But here's the thing that I think is important. And maybe you guys can figure it out. That this sickness, if you will, this plague, if you will, that we let fester is affecting us. I don't know how people can live with themselves knowing that this type of behavior is going on. I don't know how you can credibly talk about yourself as this great humanitarian or scholar, just a basic, decent human being, knowing that this is going on. Knowing that when it's brought to your attention that you do nothing. In fact, you do the opposite. Instead of helping, you're putting up obstacles. That we don't pull people on the rug for the things that they're doing. It's no wonder that this Ummah is a mess. We can't protect our own from our own. Let me digress a minute. Because there are organizations that have been trying to address this for years, but let's be honest, they're on the fringe. These organizations are on the fringe. And the reason why they haven't been successful or more successful in these situation scenarios is because too many people in this community are willing to sweep it under the rug. Just like the things you see in the news, horrible things that happen in the news. I've seen horrible things happen in the news, but they only last a news cycle. And sadly, this situation will last just a news cycle. And there are people in this community that are hoping it's only in the news cycle for a minute. Just a minute. And once it's gone, because it doesn't have the visibility or the community awareness, that we don't really need to talk about it. We don't really not talk about it. We spent how many years arguing against mental health in this community? How many years? Just think about that. How many years did we talk about mental health? Like the last 2-3 years, we've begun to talk about it. And I say this because suicide rates in our community were fluctuating. They were high. And nobody was saying anything. Can you imagine what it is to be a child and want help to be going through this thing? And for no apparent reason, you get no attention. You don't all of a sudden have credibility or layers. It's not that bad. You're exaggerating. I'm going to give Sheikh Nick some credit. I'm going to give him some credit. The credit I'm going to give him is that while he was silenced, he didn't stay silent. While he was ostracized, in his heart, he still knew that this thing was still going on. And he stayed vocal. He stayed vocal. You're vocal to a point that people they just don't listen anymore. But as an imam, as a leader of a religious organization, he stepped up and he was rebuked. He still has the scars today, and I feel bad because I know what that feels like. I was an educator. I know what it is to speak up and then be removed from a school and transferred. It happens. I know what it is to have to fill out those reports, and when you fill them out, it's just an endless road. Police, social workers, conferences, interviews, principals, statements. But you do it because even if that can help a child in the least, that's what you do. And I don't understand where we are because we have all these claims about who we are, what we do in this religion, but we fall short. And I don't understand that. I have some people on here on Instagram. Let me just go through it. BB Khan, Kashif. How you doing, Sister Ruth? Assalamu alaikum, Sister Ruth. Sister BB, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sister Ruth, how you doing? South Sola, assalamu alaikum. Sakina, all right. We have Shafir shots on Friday. Okay, inshallah. I don't know what that means. Salon, I'm going through the Instagram, folks. Ads, BB Khan. Yes, there you go. BB Khan is backing me up. She says she remembers Sheikh Nick. I remember that. Wahid Majar. Roots near the family farm. Okay, how you doing, Miss Nivens? My man Jabril. How you doing? My main man from down in Charlotte, MK143. How you doing? Take a photo. Kaylee Strain. Okay. Father the Dust. There you go, man. I'm gonna read what Father the Dust says because he's from Canada. He says, I'm an Islamic scholar from Canada and I've studied 11 years in madrasa since I was 16 all over the world, from USA, Canada. Okay. He says I'm 100%. I don't even want to be 100%, but thank you. My main man Alim, my main man Mam Tyree. That's my main man right there. This is Sakina, thank you. Laughing Hip Hop Joint, Raza, Muhammad, Ruth, Lady Naj, Ginger Shot at Tawheed. Okay. Samir, my main man from Kansas City. How you doing, beloved? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Houston criminal lawyer. Salima, 1986 joint. Look, okay, look, my thing is not here to badge anybody or bash anybody. Okay? I just put it out here and I'm real. I see things happening, and I am shook. And sometimes I'm like, that doesn't look right. And sometimes you have to say it doesn't look right. Sometimes you gotta grab a kid and you're a little too close. You know what? Why don't you come with the group of people instead of going with that person off by yourself? My thing is, brothers and sisters, this is how I was raised, and like many of you were raised, and that whole idea is that we protect one another. See, the thing about a pedophile is not a pedophile until they start planning. A pedophile plans, just like you stalk prey. That's what they do. And the stalk prey and being plain sight of everybody else is a skill. It's a demonic skill that they perfect. And they're able to trick you. They're able to smile at you knowing what they're going to do. They're able to look at a child and smile and, oh, this is love, and gain the trust of a child merely for the fact that they know they're going to break it. So look, I guess you got to come to the wrap, and I'm going to come to the wrap right now. The Muslim community needs to not just take a hard look at what's going on right now, but let's take a hard look at what's been going on. That this is a cumulative thing. That this is basically been going on a while, and we haven't been active. Can we say that? We haven't been active. But I think the thing I also want to say in closing, we haven't done enough to put these pedophiles on notice. We haven't done enough to make a pedophile scared. We haven't done enough to make them reticent about their behavior. You know, God changes hearts. I believe that. But we haven't done enough to put the fear of God in these people, because when you do these things, you ain't fearing God. The religion is second, third, fourth down the line. You're a prey, you're a predator, and that's all you're worried about. And if you're dealing with a predator, nobody's safe, brothers and sisters. The victims aren't safe, and you aren't safe, because it puts you in a situation and environment whereby if they gain, if you will, control over the environment, control over the situation, then you become an anomaly and you're not able to affect the things around you. So listen, my dua is simple. Dua to the pedophile. Allah's going to get you if I don't get you first. Dua to the community. Wake up. That's it. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. See you guys next Wednesday. Be safe. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.